All right, thank you so much. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming to our session on the interactive assessment quiz, where we're looking at one of the H5P features. Now, why are we focusing on H5P? Simply because this was a request from you as faculty. So we usually at the end of our sessions ask, what would you like to see? And a number of requests have been about the H5P, maybe based on a session we had done before, or maybe because we had indicated that this is in the learning management system, or VLE. And so a number of requests have come through. And so we're looking this semester at a series of H5P interactions. We started out with an overview, getting a feel of what it is all about and how many interactions exist and how we could possibly use them. And then we started out yesterday with looking at how we could make an image interactive in putting in hotspots so that students could access on the image text and video and audio and images. And then today we're looking at actual engagement in terms of knowledge checks. So we're looking at quizzes. It's a quiz, but this quiz has a combination of different items. So we are going to be delving into that today, and you were asked to bring some questions so that you can go through this process as I go through creating your own. My name is Michelle Stewart McCoy. I am the faculty developer or educational developer, if you will, responsible for educational technologies, 21st century technologies, using technologies to engage your learners more. And I'm joined by Mr. Dominic Williams, who I'm just going to ask to say hi, Dominic.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dominic, and I'll be helping Mrs. McCoy.
Thank you, Dominic. So we'll be here for 3 hours. It is not a lecture. It is not a talk. It's not well, it's certainly not a webinar, a one-way show of information. It's a conversation. It's a working session. And so at any point, if you need to stop me, if you need to ask a question, if you need to go back, please don't be afraid to do so. Just open your mic, raise your hand, use a chat. So we're using those as different options. A few disclaimers. I tend to do this each time. One, the sessions that we have here in the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning are really teaching and learning sessions, faculty development sessions. And as such, we engage in discourse activities, questions, answers, where participants take place. Because we do this and then share our videos with participants, or we put it on our website or on our YouTube channel, it means that your name, your statements, your image may be captured, will be captured. As such, if you are uncomfortable with the sort of questions you may pose, or with your name coming up, please let us know so that we can edit the video before. But remember that more than likely what it is you do would be for teaching and learning purposes. So if it's something that can benefit others, you may need to think about whether or not you want to remove the statement. We can probably remove the name, but think about the statement. So I'm saying that to say we will be sharing the videos on our sites and with the other participants who register. And so if you're uncomfortable with your name or your expressions that you use in the session, please let us know so we can remove that before we share. All right. And then the other thing is that I am using 2 monitors. So there are times I'm going to be looking away, and as such, I may not see if your hand is raised or if you have posted something in the chat. That is where Mr. Williams will also come in to assist us. All right. Having said all of that, let us begin, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, finally, May I call you by your first name? I am Michelle. I have no issues with you calling me Michelle. But let me know if you're comfortable with me calling you a Sharmela or a Tamika. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So I am going to start out by laying the foundation. So I usually have a little theory and then we go into the hands-on. So I am going to do a little theory sharing, a little knowledge sharing. It's less theory than it is knowledge. Let me know if you're seeing. You should be able to see my screen. I'm just going to put that in. A thumbs up will do if you're seeing.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So we call today's session your interactive assessment set, and we're looking particularly at the H5P question set. Now, the poster had said H5P question set and drag and drop, but the set itself gives you so much more than just a drag and drop. So you'll be introduced to the drag and drop, the image choice, the fill in the blank, the mark the words, drag the words, multiple choice. So you'll get a whole suite and not just the drag and drop and the question set. So because the drag and drop is a part of the question set, to avoid that kind of redundancy, we're just going to focus on the question set. Okay? Now, let me begin. What are we going to be looking at today? Well, we're going to start out by reminding ourselves what exactly is H5P. Some persons were not at the first session, and so it's just a little onboarding, nothing too exotic. So what exactly is H5P? When do we use quizzes, especially H5P quizzes? What are the features? What can it do? What are the different compositions in terms of the quiz types that you get, the question types? And because this is for teaching and learning purposes, we're going to look at how to align our learning objectives with the quiz. So we're making sure that the quiz has a purpose and it's not just an activity for an activity's sake. And then finally, we're going to look at some practical considerations, looking at the settings and feedbacks and accessibility and inclusivity and that sort of thing. And after we have completed the presentation, we are going to, if you have any questions, we'll field them, respond, and then we get into the VLE where we'll actually create this question set. No, H5P stands for HTML5 package. And what we will do, because we're not going to go too deep into this, for those of you who are here, we will also share the document that I had shared then, the documentation, as well as the recording. All right, Dominic, so we'll share that with our attendees. And then we'll make a note that says, if you have already received this, please disregard. So it stands for HTML5 package, and it is browser based, meaning that you don't have to install anything. And your students don't have to install anything either. And although there is a standalone, what we'll be using sits in the VLE. So it is inherently placed in our Moodle platform. The VLE is a Moodle platform. It is free and it is open source. And as you know, it is browser based. So you can open it on any browser. You can open it on your mobile phone, your tablets, that sort of thing. It has over 50 content type. In fact, I think when we checked the last time, it has 53 different interactions. Now, what do we mean by interactions? The interactions are simply the different types of H5P that exist. And the content can be used and reused. And if we have it already in the LMS, we can simply add more information to it, change up some things and use it again, save it as a copy and so forth. And the area that we're focusing on is called the question set. So it has different interaction types. So you will have one that's called a quiz, one that's called a drag and drop, one that's called a true false. But the question set puts everything together. So it is indeed a sequence of quiz questions, different types of questions. You have in the same package. So it has, I think this one, when we go to the VLE, we'll double check. But I think this one has 8 different types: the image choice, the multiple choice, true, false, the drag the words, mark the words, uh, drag and drop, and essay types. That's what 7, not 8, Michelle. All right. You can build in, it has built-in scoring and feedback, so you can set it up so the students can see their scores as they go along, and they can get feedback. And I did mention that it works on just about every device, every platform, every browser, and students can get immediate feedback. And this is where we tend to fall down. So we should capitalize on giving feedback when they do this kind of activity. Okay, now when should we use the H5P? We know that in the VLE, we have the Moodle quiz that we can use and we can set up. When we had our first session, when we looked at the overview, we had said that use the Moodle quiz for more structured, summative type assessment. So if you want to, and high stake assessment. So if your students have something that is worth 40%, 50%, 60%, you wouldn't use this. This is more of a formative type of assessment. So you'd use a Moodle quiz for that. So if you're using a quiz type activity for your students, the H5P question set is a good bet. So you can use it for knowledge check. It has a green there. It's a good fit. You can test students' understanding as they go through the module before they move on to a new topic, a new unit, and so forth. And it helps students to identify, and you, the facilitator, to identify gaps before the big ticket assessment comes into play, before that summative assessment. We can use it for pre-course diagnostics. So if a student is, if your students are new to your course in that first week or that first month, you can set it up so that you can find out, and students can also find out about themselves where they are. You can use it at the end of a unit before you start a new unit to find out how much they know before you get into the new unit. So it helps you to pitch your course and your content just at the right level. So you can set it up for that. You can also set it up for formative revision. And this is where it is very, very popular. This is where it shines. So it's used for low stake. It is used for, oops, I jumped, didn't I? Let's get you back. So it is used for low stakes assessments, things that are a part of, let's say, I have in my course something that I call engagement tasks. So students do little activities that add up to this 20% or 25%. And my H5P question set can be one of those. So you can use it for something like that. You can set it so that the students can just go in and practice over and over. And so you don't have to keep an eye on them. You can set it so that if it is a part of the engagement task or practical task or whatever you call it, you can set it so that the students do it once or twice, depending on how you set it up, and that is it. So it's very useful for students and for you too. If you set it up before they get their exams, before the summative, before the end of term, before the main project, if you really want to help them prepare. When it is not a good fit is when you are using it for high stake purposes. So you don't use this. It's a red card. It should be considered very carefully. If you have an assessment that is a big ticket assessment, a high stake summative assessment, as we tend to call it, because you can't stop your students from sharing answers. You can't stop them from looking up the content. You can't stop them from submitting to a different account. You can't do many things. And so this is why it is important that we use it for formative or low stakes assessments. Okay. So this is when we should use the H5P quiz. And this is not just for the quiz set, this is for any of the quizzes. Now, we won't be going through individual quiz items because we're looking at the quiz set in which we're covering just about 7 or 8 different items. But should you do something that is an individual, these are the same things that we need to think about. All right. Oh, it is 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. It is 8. So for the question set that we're going to be looking at, we have several elements in the same interaction. Now, although we have all of them, it doesn't mean that you have to use all of them. So when we're creating ours, we will see that, okay, I can use 3 out of the 8, I can use 5. So you don't have to use all, but you have all 8 at your disposal in the one interaction. For the multiple choice, this is usually the workhorse. This is the one most persons use. Even in the Moodle quiz, we tend to overwork the multiple choice items. It is easy to build. It is quick to grade, very easy to select it because a response is either correct or not, whether the response is a single correct answer or a multiple correct response. So it's very common, it's easy to build, it's easy to grade, the multiple choice. Then we have the drag and drop. Drag and drop items are usually good for visual subjects. So you get to label diagrams, you get to map different processes. And so students drag an item onto an area or an image. It doesn't have to be an image, but usually it works better with images. And when they drop it, they can then check to see how they have done. So that is our drag and drop. When we talk about the fill in the blanks, it's also known as the close item. So this is where we talk about retrieval of memory. So we are retrieving, we're recalling, and we are inputting in the spaces. So they complete a sentence or a paragraph, and then of course they get to check to see how well they have done. And we'll talk about when we set up fill in the blanks, because sometimes students use one spelling convention style as against another. So we look at how we can set up alternative responses. They mark the words is where students click on specific words in a passage to select the most appropriate or response. So this is useful for language, whether foreign language, English language, for reading tasks, for comprehension, and so forth. So this is the mark the words, and then the drag the words is where they get the information, the words are to the left, and they drag it to the respective section in the order that it ought to be. So this is good for vocabulary expansion, vocabulary building, sequencing tasks, and so forth. So that's the drag the words. True and false, we know this is binary. It's used to test or to challenge common misconceptions. So you make a statement, you ask a question, and you have this is true, this is false. The essay, well, let's look at the image choice first. The image choice, again, by the name, it's instead of using words in your multiple choice, you actually use images. So again, this would be good for visual disciplines such as the sciences and healthcare and design. Not that it can't be used for the others, but it is better suited for these subject areas. And so students read the question, have a series of images, and then they select the appropriate or the correct response. And then finally, you can set up essay questions, the same way we can set up essay questions in the Moodle platform. So we can set up essay questions, but they're not automatically graded, something similar to the Moodle quiz. What happens is that you can set it up and you can set it so that students can test it. You go in after and mark accordingly, but you can give a model response, a sample response, so that after they're finished, they can see how well they have done based on what it is that they have looked at. So these are the 8 different types in the question set that we're going to be looking at. And it's compact because it has all of these things. And if you're doing this for formative, you just set up one quiz, have everything right there, and then you can reuse based on your need for other classes. Now, some things that would be good knowing about the question set or just about any quiz in the interactions, in the H5P interactions. So there is randomization. So you can randomly assign. So, well, first of all, you can have a pool of questions and then you randomly select from that pool. So you may have, say, 30 questions that you have put together and your students only should do 10 or 15. What the system does is that it randomly pulls 15 questions for the set so that each student gets 15 questions, but not necessarily the same 15 questions. So you can do that as one part of randomization. The other thing is that you can also randomize the response, the order of the responses. So you can allow the answer, the responses in multiple choice, whether the image choice or the text, to be shuffled. And the entire quiz, you can also shuffle that. So the order of the quiz itself can be randomized. So my number 1A is not your number 1A. In fact, my number 1 is not your number 1 any at all. So students get a different starting page or a different continuation page. I see a hand. Yes, Tamika, go ahead, please.
So while I understand the randomization, the difference. So let's say I have the pool and I want a pool of 30 and I want to give 15 for the actual quiz. Which one is that? It's the randomized questions. That's the one that it's the randomized questions. Versus if there is a set 15.
And then you randomize
1A,
that.
right?
Yes.
That's the one that's called answer order.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is that clearer?
Yes, thanks.
All right, great. Great. And remember, stop me at any point. It was just by chance that I saw that your hand was up because I'm looking at the other monitor. I don't necessarily see when the hand comes up here. So you can, if you don't see me respond right away, just open your mic as well, please. All right. The feedback, now we also have the feedback in the Moodle quiz, and you notice that I'm doing a little bit of comparative work here. The feedback obtained exists in both the Moodle quiz and all the H5P interactions. However, as facilitators, we don't usually capitalize on this part very much, but students get to see whether or not they were right or they were wrong, if they were on the right the right path, and then we can customize the feedback based on the responses. So we can customize feedback for the entire quiz, and then we can customize feedback for the different questions that we put in. We can write specific feedback, and we're being encouraged not to write correct or incorrect because that really isn't giving feedback. It's a reaction. Feedback means that the students know exactly why they misinterpreted a question or that the response is not the correct response, because simply saying correct or incorrect, wrong or right does not provide the students with the kind of information as to why this is incorrect. So we are encouraged to do that. We a retry. So there is a retry button that we can enable so that the students can try again, especially if we're doing this just for them to practice. We can also put in a pass mark. So when we're setting up, we can put a pass mark in. So, and we can tell them if the pass mark for the course is 60%, you may want to say, in order for you to practice and do well, we're putting the pass mark for this activity at 70%, or we're keeping it with the universal pass mark and it is at this percent. I think this person is trying to get into the session. Give me 1 minute. Sorry about that, colleague. Somebody's trying to get into the session. Hopefully she'll be able to join soon. Right, so we can enable retry so the students can try as often as possible. If this is something that we're assigning a grade because it belongs to a part of a bigger suite of activities like my engagement task, I would probably deselect the retry and put in the notes that you only have 1 attempt at this. So ensure that you have reread the particular unit or resources so that you can continue accordingly. We have a progress bar, so you can decide if the progress bar is a series of dots so students can see what's highlighted, or if it's text-based so they can see that this is question 1 of 5 and you're on question 2, so they see the progression. And finally, we can embed our H5P into the gradebook. Isn't that cool? So if this is something that you want the students to do the activity, you give them a grade, you can, you can set it up so that it also reflects in the gradebook. So you don't have to worry about going into the gradebook after all of that and then enter grades or doing it on a separate Excel sheet. All of this can be done when you set your H5P question set up. All right. Now, because this is teaching and learning, and because this is something that is very important for us, I need to underscore this each time we have a session. It is very easy for us to build quizzes, for us to build practice activities for students, but it is important for us to remember that it should be aligned. So it's a teaching and learning activity. We have to start with the learning objectives, and the activities that we do should reflect the learning objectives. So the question that we should always ask before we build our quiz items, before we build our quiz set, is that which one of the learning outcomes does this particular question test? Most of us as facilitators would have known about the Bloom's taxonomy. And so the Bloom's taxonomy is built on a gradient where we start out with a low order thinking skill such as remember and understand, and then we move gradually up to applying, analyzing, and evaluating. These are the higher order thinking skills. So I think it's application, analysis, evaluation, and creation. That's at the higher level of the Bloom's taxonomy. And so if you're setting up your question set, you can actually use all of these. We don't have to stay, especially for our multiple choice, we don't have to stay at recall and understanding. We can actually set our multiple choice quizzes in such a way that our students can apply, they can synthesize, they can analyze, and so forth. So these are some of the things that we need to think about. So when we create a quiz that is not aligned, that is not linked any at all to our learning management, to our learning objectives, we tend to test recall of facts that really are not in the learning outcomes. We have the students passing a quiz, but they can't really apply not the knowledge that they have learned. The feedback that we tend to give is generic. It's either right or it's wrong. And of course, the quiz feels more like a box ticking and not so much like learning. So this is when we set up our quiz and it's not properly aligned. When we align the quiz, we have something that looks different. It's a quiz that works for your students and works for us as facilitators, because the questions map to respective learning outcomes. The questions then also map or reflect the Bloom's taxonomy, the different levels of the cognitive domain. And then, of course, the feedback that we give to our student explains why the answer is correct or why the answer is wrong. And then finally, the students get a better understanding of and an appreciation for the quiz, because it's helping them to they know what it is helping them to prepare for. So this is the difference when we within this teaching and learning context. This is the difference between a quiz that is not aligned or that is poorly aligned, and a quiz that is properly aligned, taking the learning objectives into consideration. Now, what can that look like? At the very bottom, and I'm using the Bloom's taxonomy to guide us here, you have remember, and then we move up to understand, apply, analyze, and evaluate. At this lower end, we have true-false questions that we can use, simple multiple choice that test recall and recognition. When it comes up to understanding, we can still use a multiple choice, but we can have explanations in there. So the responses are a little more than just a one word or a two-word phrase. And then we can use fill in the blank here to show that level of understanding. When it comes on to application, again, we can use multiple choice, but these are scenario-based multiple choice, and we can use drag the words so that they can show this level of application. When it comes on to analysis, we can again use multiple choice. So you realize how versatile the multiple choice is. So we can use the multiple choice with our case study questions. We can use mark the words. And then when it comes on to the evaluation, again, we can use multiple choice. We can use the essay. But of course, remember that the essay isn't graded in the quiz set. We can put the sample responses so students can see how to frame this if they were in a high stake assessment condition. Okay. All right. So I think I have just a few more slides left. Some of the things that we need to think about. So when we're setting up our quiz set or question set, remember that this is normally for formative purposes. So the first question we need to ask ourselves is, how many questions will I put into this formative activity? Usually the best practice is 5 to 10 questions. That's enough for you to do a knowledge check, for you to do a formative assessment. More than 15, the completion rates tend to drop. So we push the boundaries if we carry it up to 15, but more than 15, you'll find that more and more students are not finishing it. They may start, but they may not finish it. So what we need to remind ourselves is that the quality of the assessment is better than the quantity. We can still determine whether or not they can recall, understand, apply, evaluate, create, etc. in 10 questions, in 15 questions. Over or much more than that, it's overkill. The second thing that we need to think about is whether or not we're going to set a pass mark. If we're setting this for practice purposes only, it doesn't feed into an engagement task, a grade, you don't need to put a pass mark, because it's really about students going in and seeing how well. You can put the feedback in, and if you put a score in, you tell them that the score is simply quantitative. It is not meant to give them the qualitative measure. They should pay more attention to the feedback, because if your students are like mine, they want to see the score. But if it's purely formative, it's purely for practice purpose, you don't have to set a pass mark. You leave it as it is. As it relates to the feedback, ensure that the feedback you give the students some kind of direction. And write a statement that explains something. You don't have to write an essay long comment, but write something. If the student has done really badly on the question, you direct the student to what he or she should revise, or you probably put a link in. Yes, you can do that. You can put a link in to say you should consider looking here for more information that explains it in depth, something like that. When it comes on to accessibility, H5P in general tends to be good, but it's not perfect. So you need to ensure that if you have students who have challenges, that you see how best this technology can help them. So there are some things that you can tick that will help students, but if based on the nature of your students, you may need to make adjustments there. And if you're using images, remember that you are expected to put in the alt text, that is the alternative text, a description that says what the picture is if it's not loading on the student's device. And finally, this is something that I tend to remind us every time: test it as a student. Always preview your question set, your quiz, your interaction, your PowerPoint, anything that you're preparing. Always preview it before you share it or before you publish it. And remember to double check it on a mobile screen. So you look at it on a tablet or you look at it on a phone, so that you have an idea of what exactly your students will be seeing. Okay, so I have done quite a bit of talking about what this is, how it looks, how we should work about it, but there are a few key takeaways. All right. We use the H5P for low stakes. We use the H5P question set for H5P. We can mix, so we know that there are 8 different types, so we can mix how many we use, and we have to remember to include feedback that helps the students know where they went wrong and where they should go after. And so before I jump into the final thing, are there any questions that you need to ask at this point, or any comments that you need to make? We're going to look at what we're going to do when we go into the VLE. Any questions? Anything that is still a little muddy for you? Silence is golden. It means that I have been perfectly clear. So what are we going to do now? We are going to build our own question set in the VLE. I will lead. If you have access to the VLE and you want to follow lockstep, so as I do, you do, you're welcome to do so. If you'd rather wait until I have done something and then you attempt it, again, there are no right or wrong answers here. You do with what you feel more comfortable with. But we're going to set up an activity that has about 3 different question types. I'll try to walk us through how all the question types will look, but for your activity, you can focus on 3 for now. And so we're going to also write feedback for the different questions, and we're going to preview it so that we see what it looks like from a student mode. All right, so let me oh, maybe I shouldn't stop sharing. I need to just close this. So let me close this. Let's see.
Sorry, Ms. McCoy, I'm gonna step out now for a little bit.
All right, that is fine. All right, colleagues. So it's us for a little while. Dominic is stepping out. A quick question before we begin anything. Did you carry any questions? Did anybody carry any questions? If anybody's talking, all right, so I see thumbs up. Okay, great. The other question that I should ask, and I'm gonna ask you to open your mic here. Did you what types of question did you carry? Are they multiple choice or you carried a mix? What did you do?
I carried a mix.
Nice. Anybody else? All right. Okay, that's fine. So because what we're working with, I find myself saying so a lot, because what we're working with is in the VLE, we are going to head to the VLE. So here I am already logged in, but of course it means that you would go to the home page, log in with your respective credentials, and then go to the course that you want to set your activity in. I am in my course, so this is my sample course, Game-Based Learning in the Caribbean. It is a fictitious course. I used it only for show and tell purposes until I create it. So I am in the course, and the first thing that I need to do is to set up my activity in the content bank. Remember that the content bank is where everything lives for H5P. So I go across to more and I scroll down to where it says content bank. I click on content bank and I am looking for the question set. I click on add. I would click on upload if I've already created it external to the VLE, and I have that H5P file, which I would upload. That I don't have. So I click on add. When I click on add, it's going to give me a list of all 53 interactions. It's put in alphabetical order. So we would simply scroll down until we find question set, which is on the queue. Here we are. So we click on question set and we get the window. As we work through the different H5P, you will realize that the interface is similar for all of them. And it makes it so much easier for us to get a handle of working with the tool much faster, because everything is essentially set up in the same place, follows the same set of processes, steps. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to name our activity. That's the first thing. So for me, the course is Game-Based Learning in the Caribbean, and this is the title of my quiz. I have it here already. Game-Based Learning in the Caribbean, and I'm gonna call it quiz 1. You can decide if you want to have a quiz introduction. A quiz introduction is where you have a title of the specific quiz, as well as an image if you want an image, and some kind of instruction for the students. So if I want that, I would click on display introduction, and then what I would do after that is write the title. The title for this one is Game-Based Learning versus Gamification, and it's Unit 1. I include that there. And I also put in the introductory text. So this is where I put some information so that the student can see exactly what the quiz is about and how to proceed. I have welcome to the quiz. I have that it covers key ideas from Unit 1. I have that it's 15, but you can put any number. So I am going to change this to say 6. I don't remember how many I had in the sample. I have, when I'm ready, click start quiz, and the start quiz would be right there. And oh, I don't need this. So why did this come up? I copied and I did. Oh, that should not have been there. The information should say when you're ready, click start. If there is more information that you need to put in that makes it clearer for your students, you do that in this section. Okay. If you have an image, sometimes you want to have a little background image that the text overlays on, you can do so. My course is Game-Based Learning in the Caribbean. I want to have a background image, so I can easily do that. Now you would realize that it says You can have a background image for the introduction, and you can have a background image for the question set. So for each question, there is that overlay, that underlay, that background image. I don't want it for mine, so I'll just have it for the introduction. So I click on add and I look for where my image is. Let's click on add. And it will bring something up. So I'm just going to do a quick search for where I have my image, and I'll use one of the images from yesterday. Here, this one. So this is the image. A word to the wise, if you're going to use a background image, it is better that you put some kind of transparency on it so it's not too bright when you preview it. This is what it would look like. Before you do anything else, I usually test what it looks like. So I go down to save just to see what it looks like. I haven't added any question or anything as yet, but it gives me an idea. So this is what the students would see. This is what the interface would look like. And this is what I'm talking about the image. You probably don't want anything that's too bright and competing with the text. I have included this simply as an example for you to see if you were to include a background image, what that might look like. And of course, when you click start quiz, you would start the quiz, but we don't have anything because we haven't set up anything as yet. And so I click on edit so that I can continue with the process. So far I have my title for this particular activity. I have my background image that I've put. The progress indicator, you can decide if you want dots or if you want text. For you to see what that looks like, we'll actually have to add some items first. So we're going to leave it at dots for now, and then we'll change it to text so you can see what it looks like and you can decide which one you want. Are we good so far? Is everybody okay? Not hearing us all. Not seeing anything in the chat.
Mostly.
If you're not okay, we have the time. Let me know so that we can fix it. We're still in the preliminary section. So what we're doing at this point is simply setting up the basic parameters of the quiz. We have the name, we have a background image that we had put in place. I didn't save the background image, so you realize that it's not showing. So, oh, it is showing. I am so sorry. I needed to click the drop down. So that is the name of the particular quiz. I have my introductory text. I have the start button. I can easily change the name. So it doesn't have to say start quiz. It could say begin the knowledge check. You could decide anything you want. So let me just change it so that you can see what that would look like. Begin the knowledge. KNWLEDGE check. And that's my image. So I have all of those in place. Then and this is where we're talking about the whether or not you want the progress indicator to be dots or text. We will keep it at dots until we add some items. The pass mark here is 50%. You can leave it. You can remove it. You can increase it or decrease it accordingly. I leave it at that. And then we come to the section where we add the questions. We see loading because there isn't anything there. And then we see add a question. If we were to add a question and we see question type, text or default. The default tends to look like this. The text tend to be where we can put certain questions in. So if we have the questions in our Word document, we can put them here, particularly for multiple choice items. I've been testing it with the others and it has failed miserably so far. What I do know is that the multiple choice items, if you have those on a Word documents, you can type it up here instead of adding them one by one. So when I click on add a question, Oh, let me start here. I click the drop down and it tells me that I have multiple choice, drag drop. So these are the options that we went through. So let's start with the multiple choice. It says untitled multiple choice. We can change the title. The title here is for you, the facilitator. The students don't see the title. Put a title that you can easily recognize should you need to go in and make adjustments to the question. So I'd have something like GBL description. And so this would help me to know that I'm talking about describing game-based learning. This is for the teacher. You can include media, and the media appears with the question that you have put in. So you can put in a media type, you can put in an image, you can put in a video, you can put in an audio in the question that you're setting up. I'm not putting any here. I simply work with the text alone. Then, of course, we need to put the question in. The question is what our students will see, and they will also see the responses. So this is the first question that I want. Which of the following is a multiple choice best describes game-based learning? Where it says available options, this is where I will put in the options and I will indicate which one of the options is the correct one. If we have more than one correct response, we also would select correct. And usually we're told that you can put the first response, you can put the first answer as the correct answer, but you don't have to. So what I'm doing now, I'm just going to copy and paste from what I have over here, the different responses, and then I'll put a feedback in. So that's the first option. This is the second option. This is actually the correct option. So I will tick the box. So if students select that, they get the correct, they get the appropriate. It only gives me 2, so I can add. So putting 2 more in. And then the final one would be add an option. Put that in here. I'm pausing just a second. I see something in the chat. Dominic is back. Great, Dominic. Thank you. So I have my question and I have my 4 options because this particular question has options. Now I am going to put in my feedback, something that the students ought to see. I'll put well, if the student select the incorrect response, I am going to ensure that they have feedback. So I click the drop down here, tips and feedback. I can put a tip in, which sort of works like a hint for the students if they're struggling. If they get it correct, I can put a message here. So that's the feedback if they get it correct. And if if the answer that is selected is incorrect, this is the feedback that I would put. So it's not just correct or not correct. It also tells them why. And hold on. I'm gonna put that for each of the incorrect feedback. It may be a little bit tedious when you start, but as soon as you begin to get more comfortable with it, it's so much easier. You realize that, oh, I can do this with my eyes closed. I am looking for the correct response. That's this one. And I'm also putting feedback on the correct response. Message displayed if answer is selected. And I am finished with the first question. I have added a multiple choice. Now so I can go down and I can scroll to save. And depending on the editor you're using, it may be a good practice for you to save and preview. Okay. I had changed the start quiz to begin knowledge check. Click on that, and here we are. This is the dot that I'm talking about. So if we have 8 questions, you would see 8 dots here. If we change it to textual, it looks slightly different. Okay, and I am going to test this. So if I select something that's incorrect and I click check, it tells me not quite. Oh, I didn't realize that it actually gives me all of this. So it gives me this. So I get some kind of feedback. And so I can go back in and I can edit. I go down. And I had selected, remember that when we had set up the quiz, I had selected dots. Let us see what it looks like if I selected textual. Start. And so it says question 1 of 1. And if you had 3 questions, it would say question 1 of 3. And then if I want to question 2, it would say question 2 of 3. So this is what the text looks like. You can decide on your preference whether you want to keep the text or if you want to keep the dots. It's really up to you. I tend to use the dots because it means that the students have less text looking up. The other thing you notice that it has check. You can decide that you don't want to keep the check for each. You simply want them to go through the activity and then at the end they get feedback. You can also decide if you want to remove that. Okay, and you do that by going right here and deciding what you want. So show confirmation on the check, require answer before the solution. You can give the whole activity 1 point, or if it has different pieces, you can leave it so that each is counted. So you do that there for each item. Then I want to add another question. So I'm going to add a true false. I click on add. So this is our multiple choice and it's there highlighted. I click on add question, and then now I can add another question type. So this is how we continue to build the different items. So I'm going to click on a true false as the second question. And you'll realize that the true false interface is much simpler because a response is either true or the response is false. Again, you name it. So this one for me is going to be a game-based learning versus gamification. This will help me to know what question it is. And then in the section that says question, I put the statement. As with the multiple choice, I could easily put media. So I could put an image, I could put a video, I could put an audio. So the students could listen to something and then respond true or false. They could watch something as a video or they could look at an image. It really is up to you. And my statement is here and the correct response is true. So I leave that alone. Again, it has the behavioral settings. So you can have the retry, that sort of thing. You can deselect them if you don't want them. And then, of course, you can decide if you want to prevent the students from going back to the other questions. And this is where you can randomize the order of the questions so that the first question is different to that sort of thing. And you can also do how many questions out of the set that you have you want each student to get. So all of that you can do here as you go through. So this is my true false. Very easy, very simple, done. And again, I would click on save. Now, each time you click save, it carries you to the preview window. I tend to very cautiously save every time because you never can tell what is likely to happen with the electricity. So or the internet. So I tend to save each time. But saving means that it carries me back to the preview window every time. If you're okay with that, you simply keep doing that and then you click edit each time. We have two types of questions in so far. We have multiple choice and we have a true false. Let's put a fill in the blank. Again, we click on add question and we go to fill in the blank, which is our close item. And we would make a statement that says to the students, fill in the blank. So I'm gonna call this fill in the blank. And it gives you some kind of description. You can change that, leave it as it is if it works for you. And you're not left on your own. In H5P, it gives you instructions. If you don't see this come up like that, you simply, if you don't see that, it's more than likely is in collapsed view. And so you would see show instructions. If you want to see the instructions, so the instructions tell you what exactly you do, and you'll realize that there is grayed out text here that gives you an idea. So the word that is supposed to be filled in is Norway. And so Norway is in, what's that, asterisk, between asterisks. If you click on show instructions, it gives you more information. So it tells you that the blanks, meaning the space that students will fill in, are added by putting an asterisk at the front and at the end of the word or phrase. So you can actually have a phrase. It also tells you that you can put alternative responses. So in some cases, a student may spell the word with S, one may spell it with Z, one may call it game-based learning with a hyphen, one may decide not to have it, or you're those, because it's commonly known as GBL, there are those who may put GBL. So you can use your / and put those in. And then of course you can add tips. So by putting a tips before you close the asterisk, you just put a colon and you put the tip. We're going to look at what that may look like in something else. So I'm going to close this and then I'm going to put in the information that I would have in my fill in the blank for my students. So I click paste and here I want them to put in the word gamification and I want them to put in the word game-based learning. And I have the slash, it's the / just in case a student puts GBL instead or put the game-based learning without the hyphen. And then I close the asterisk. So everything is encapsulated between the two asterisks. And then I can add another one. So depending on how many fill in the blank activities I want, I can do that. And then of course it has the range. You can leave that by default, you can leave it. It will operate the way it should. But if you want specific responses, so for this one, there are 2 words that they're supposed to fill in. I can put 0 to 50, almost there. You need to think about whatever it is they may have gotten wrong. And then I can probably put 100, well, probably 0 to 99 if they get half of it, or 0 to 50, and then 50 to 100 if they get everything correct. If you're using a number of fill in the blank statements, then you can easily click on distribute evenly and the system will do the calculation for you. You don't have to worry about that. I usually leave that alone. And of course, I click my save. Let me take a look at what that looks like. So I see my instruction. I know which unit it is for. I know what the quiz is. I click on begin knowledge thing. It says 1 of 3 now. I'm going to go back in and change that. I see my responses. So that is the first one. I can check as I go along, or I can simply go through. That is my statement. It says true, false. I click and then I continue And this is where I would fill in the blank. So while the term gamification, and then I'm going to put something like games here, and I want to check it. So it tells me that this one is correct, but this one is incorrect. I can retry. I can show the solution, but you can decide to deselect it when you're setting it up. I want to retry. So retrying allows you to clear the page, gamification, and then I'm going to put GBL. And then I'll check. Okay, so this is an alternative response, but because it was included, it is accepted. And then I can finish, and finish gives me that. Again, I can go in and add. So I can keep doing this for a while until I have populated with X number of different items. I am pausing here for a quick minute to find out if you're fine, if I was going too fast, if there's anything you want me to repeat, if you're ready to test it before we do the others. Let's talk a little bit. First question, are we okay?
Initially, I was trying to do it as you were doing, but because you are versed on it, you were going a bit fast. So I did get to do a multiple choice question, but then I stopped to watch what you were doing with the other types.
All right, perfect. So what I'm going to do at this point, because it is supposed to be a working session, a hands-on session, I'm going to stop sharing my screen just for a little bit, and then allow you to set up your multiple choice. What have we added so far? So we have done a multiple choice, we have done a true false, and we have done a fill in the blank. So I'm going to allow you to set up something. Now, it doesn't matter if you don't have questions, if you didn't carry questions, you can simply put something like correct answer, incorrect answer, so that you get the hands-on. Do you wish for me to repeat anything, or do you want to test the waters and then we continue with the other types?
I'll probably test it, and then if we get
Stuck, we
any,
can,
yes,
yes.
we
All
can
right,
holler
great.
for help.
And I see where Romain says you want to test it. All right, so we're gonna pause the recording so that we don't have that empty space while you test it. Will 10 minutes be enough, or you want a little more time? It's 3 different things you're testing, so maybe 15 minutes, 5 for each.
Yeah, that should be fine.
All right, great. All right, colleagues, so you've had a little time to explore building your own. And so this is where you are going to share what you've done so far. I'm very excited to see what you've been doing. And so for those of you who are comfortable enough with sharing, may we see what you have. So you could have, from what we have done so far, you could have done a multiple choice, true, false, a fill in the blank. You could do one or you could do all 3. No pressure. So who wants to go first? Come on, don't be shy.
I can go if I can figure out how to do this thing. I was trying to do something else, was never a good idea. It's not a good idea. Let's go big. I could go quickly, especially since I
Okay, so
jump
you can
off
share your
shortly.
screen.
Let me try. Michelle, I hope wait there now. Yes, sir?
You're supposed to
You can see
be,
that now?
yes, it's coming up.
All right, so these are the questions that I put up. Ignore the last one. I was trying to put in an image in this one, which it did work.
Okay, well, that's
But
good.
just to play with that. Okay, so this is what you want is to
So,
do actual
scroll
exam,
down
the
to,
same.
same,
Great.
and
All
let's
right,
look at it
okay,
in,
sorry.
yeah.
All right, so that's it. So if you
Okay.
start the quiz, then you'll see the options. And when you check the answer, oh Lord, let me put this out of my way. I can't see. It would say check. I didn't put in all of that stuff that you have there, So
Oh, that is fine.
So it shows it, and if you get it right, it just tells you correct.
Okay.
And then you go to the next question. which was a true false,
Mm-hmm.
and the answer is false. So,
Mm-hmm.
and the bar, but it's saying 1 of 1. Why is that?
Because you only have one true false question. So if you could have set
Oh,
it up so you added more true false, but you only have
so
one.
it will, so the bar will show for the type of question at the overall paper?
No, at the end. So when you're finished and you click
Oh,
finish, it gives you the overall.
okay. So this is the answer here is NMDA receptor and the development of stridor. That's the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you check that,
Okay. So you see you have two
two,
responses. So it's a 2 out of 2.
I didn't notice that actually when I was doing
Don't
it.
click exit. Don't click exit. Okay.
I have more questions.
Mhm.
Which monitoring modality the text is gonna be that, and did I just
You,
exit?
you
I
just
did.
exited it. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So what it has about 4 more MCQs before you
Right. Okay. So
not to
you've
take
been
up the
doing
time. Somebody else can show, but
so you've been
I
doing
did so
mostly
far.
MCQs and then
Mostly
you
because I
have
actually have a
fill in the
class on this
blank.
topic this evening and I had the MCQs waiting, but I did have a few true false as well. So it was easy to do those.
Okay, nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Okay, so I'll
Thank
stop
you
now and
so
let
much,
somebody else
Simone.
go. Sure.
Who else wants to go? We can take one more before we go back to setting up the others and finishing up with the quiz. And it doesn't matter if you have completed it or not. We just want to see that you're engaging in the content. So who wants to go next? Nobody? All right, that is fine. Simone, thank you so much for sharing. Dominic, please put Simone down for getting a special badge from us. All right, so we have done the first 3 of the 8. Well, we have done 3 of the 8 different types. And of course, you could continue adding the others. I'm going to share my screen again and just show you what you do when you're finished and you're going to wrap it up. And then I will show you how to add it to the course. And then I will wrap up by showing you one I had done before. Oh, I'll show you how to add to the Lumi to it. And then I'll show you how to wrap everything up. All right. So you should be seeing my screen again. And let us say that we are happy with what we have so far. The next thing you would do is scroll down to where it says finished. Now, you can decide that you want to disable the backward navigation. As I said, you want to randomize the question, and you can decide if you want, if you have a pool. So let's say you have already created, say 30, but you only want the students to see 10, you can put the number here, and that is what would come up. Now, when you're finished, you have added everything to your quiz and you're ready to wrap this up, you'd scroll down to where it says finished. You can have the results displayed. You can have a display solution button so that if you had given the answers or if you had given a model response, you can display that. You can display a retry button so that they can try again. I didn't do a drag and drop, and I think I want to show you how to set up a drag and drop in case you want to do something like that with your students. So let me just add a few more. Yes, we have some time. So let me add a few more. So I am going to go to let me do an image choice and then let me do a drag and drop. So we're going to go to an image choice. So this time we are going to click on image choice. And the image choice, as we said before, is simply instead of the options being text, your options are actually images. So we are going to put the question in. Again, you would name it so that it is clear what this question is, but because I only have one of each, I'll just put sample. And you have the question, where it says question. So I'll put the question, which of the following images best represents how game-based learning might be used in the classroom? And we are going to put 2 images. You can add more, but I only have 2. So I am going to click on add. And I look for the first image, which is going to be, this is from a session we did yesterday. And of course, we're reminded that we should have alternate text at all times. So I'll just put something in case students' page not loading, they get the text that gives them an idea. And then if this is correct, I would select correct, but this is not the correct response. I go and I add my second image, which is this one showing game-based learning in action. I put my alternate text. Students engaging in a board game. And this is a correct response. So I would select correct and test it. Oh, because I'd select randomize, it starts with this. So let's do that. And oops. I'm not selecting the check here. And this is what it would look like. So if you have 4 images, it would bring up 4 images. Read the question, you select the correct one. Finished, I get 5 out of 5. And then if I click on show solutions, it shows me the solutions and bring me through, gives me the question, gives me the responses, give me what I have selected. So this is what the students would see. Yes, Tamika, go ahead.
How does the alternative text kick in?
When I bring it into the VLE and log in as a student, I'll show you.
Thank you.
Well, I probably need to be having internet issues, but I'll show you if it comes up when I log in as a student. All right. Okay, and then so this one is the image choice. I'm going to add one more. I'm going to add the drag and drop. So I go to add question, and this time I look for drag and drop. Drag and drop has 3 different steps that you need to engage in order to complete it well. You will have to engage the settings, and then you do the task, and the task has your drop zones, your text, and then you wrap up by selecting what is the correct response. You don't have to have a background image, but a background image usually is helpful. I want for this question to be sample. Again, I'm putting in a title that would help me, the teacher. Settings, I have to put up, well, I don't have to, but I'm going to put a background image in. So I click on add. I look for my background image, which is here. You can use the default text, or you can put dimensions that you know would work. Of course, you test it so that you see that the dimensions work and that it's not too stretched and that you have enough space to put the information in. So that is the first thing that you do. Once you have done that, you then go on to step 2, which is where you set up your drop zones. Your drop zones simply mean that this is where the students are going to have to put the correct responses. And you'll see 3 icons here. You'll see drop zone, text, and image. We're going to be interested in these 2 right now. So we're going to click on add drop zones. And for the drop zones, you'll realize that you you can put a label in to say what is happening. So I'm gonna, my question has to do with students selecting the correct responses and dropping them on under the section. And I'll only do 2 just for you to get an idea of what it would look like. So my first drop zone is going to be, my 2 columns are gamification and game-based learning. So one is going to be game-based learning. And I don't have to show the label because my image already has game-based learning and gamification. And so I can make the opacity above 50% so that it shows when the image isn't fully covered. Where it says that the drop zone can only have 1 element, you decide whether or not when the students are doing something like this, if it only can go to 1 area. So some time ago, we had done an image of a face and students were supposed to label it by pulling the text to the respective section. In a drop zone like that, there is only 1 element that could be in the drop zone. For something like this, if I have different statements, it means that more than one thing may apply to game-based learning or apply to gamification. So I'm not going to tick this. And it has auto align. Auto align simply means that it will automatically set it up where you put it. So if I click on it, I will see what that looks like. And when you're finished with that, you click done. When you click done, it gives you the drop zone. So I'm gonna just make that a little bit bigger, tear down a little bit. And I need to have, let's say, 2 more drop zones. So, well, 1 more for game-based. So I can simply copy and then paste so that I don't have to go through setting everything up all over. And then I want 2 drop zones for gamification as well. So I'll copy and paste and adjust this one so that it says gamification, because right now it says that this is game-based learning. So I'll change this to gamification. Gamification. Click on done. And I'll copy this and click paste. So I will have, what I'm going to have now will be 4 areas for students to drop the information into. If you have more, you add more of the respective boxes. So I have done my drop zones. This is where the students are going to drag and drop. I don't have what they will drag as yet. So now I'm going to create what they will drag. And I click on text. I'll create the first text, which is going to be assimilation. And I want the students to be able to drop the information on any of the zones. It doesn't mean that it's correct, but I don't know if you have ever played a game where it says drag and drop and you're dragging it and every time you drag it, it bounces back. That is because it has predetermined zones for the text. No, I don't want my students to say, that is it. I want them to be able to drag it, and it's only after they have selected check that it tells them whether or not this is correct. I don't want to give them any warning by it flinging it back. So I would select all drop zones so they can drop it anywhere. So assimilation can go on game-based learning. If they're dragging, it can go on gamification. And I would leave the background opacity and I click done. And you realize that this is here. So what I'll do, sorry. So I'll do is simply resize it. So I'm gonna resize it and drop it down here so a little bit. Okay, and then I want to do a few more. So I can just copy this and click paste, and I'll click paste 4 times. So I have 4 different things. And I can line them up right here down the bottom. And of course, it means for each, I'll have to change. So all of them are going to say simulation. So I got to change this one to leaderboard. And I am doing the copy and paste because it's easier. But if you're not too comfortable with the copy and paste as yet, you can just create each one from scratch. I'm going to put badges for this one. And I'm going to put escape room for this one. All right, so now what I have my 4 drop zones and I have my 4 text that the students will drop. So far, I have not decided which ones are going to be correct and which one's going to be incorrect. This is where I'm going to do that. What I do is I don't use the text. I click on the drop zones. So I'm going to click on the first drop zone and I am going to click on edit. And this is where it tells me which text goes where. So it is game-based learning. And for game-based learning, it would be a simulation and an escape room. Those 2 would be correct. And then I click done. For the second one, still on the game-based learning, I click the edit and I would select simulation. That's the text that would go here, and escape room. Why do I do the same thing twice?
Because you don't want when the student put it there, it says it can't hold.
Exactly. Okay, so I've done these 2, and then I'm going to do the same over here for the gamification. That would be the badges and the leaderboard. And I do the same thing for the second one because we have 2 of each, badges and leaderboard. And that is it. Let us see what it looks like and how it works. Going in here, starting with this one, then I go on to the next question, and here is my drag and drop. So you find that you have your text at the bottom that the students will drag, and they'll have to drag it to the respective sections here. So a simulation, and you notice that when they start dragging, it has a little, what you call it, an outline. So they can let it go here. And if I put my leaderboard there, see, it fits. Because I don't want the students to suspect that, no, it's not supposed to go there. If they're confident enough and they know that it's correct, it will be fine. And so I've got to put my badges there and my escape route there. And when I check, it will tell me which ones are correct. And of course, if I do my retry, especially if you set it up for students so that they can do the retry, this is what is likely to happen. So that is your drag and drop. It's beautiful. My students like it. It's simple. It works well. And it's easy to set up once you have your images. Of course, you don't need to have a background image. It's just that for me, it's visually appetizing, and it makes it a little bit easier for dragging and dropping in a particular image space. So that is how I tend to use it. I see a question. Can you specify an order for drag and drop? I have never tested an order, but I suppose you could. I will
But
do
sometimes
a little
you want the things in a particular order.
in a particular
I was
order,
just thinking of
yes.
a particular topic, that it wouldn't just be putting them all in a one basket, but in, step 1 for either side in an order. That's what I mean. So could you say, so if simulation was number 2 and they put it at number 1, it would not go.
Let me show you. So you remember when we started out and I said to you that we are going to select settings. We're going to go select who remembers where it says all of them are looking for it. Drag and drop. This is the image. Oh, come on. There was a section that says, I'm wondering if I can't see it again because I have, who remembers that? Oh, it's on the drop zone. So this section where I said that we are not going to select anything because only more than one can hold, yes, we can do that. So if I select drop zone can only hold one element.
Okay,
Then
and then you
this is where we're
specify
going.
which
And then
element
you
goes in which
specify,
drop
then you
zone.
specify which one.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Thank
And
you.
so for the simulation, you would select this. So only simulation would fit there. So in that sense, you do it there. If you have more than one and in any order, you then can leave that blank. But if you do, you'll have to select this drop zone can only contain one element. So only simulation can go in the first box. Only leaderboard can go in the second box. Only what's the other one I had? Points can go in the third box, and only escape room can go in the fourth box. So that is how you would set it up. All right. Okay, so we're finished. And we go to the finish section and we decide that we want to display the results. We want to display the solution, and we have the rest of it. We can decide if we want the word finished or if we want to put something else. So we can set that up right here. And then there is a section right here where we can change the text, the label. So if you don't want to put the words show solution, you can say something like show me the answer. That will come back. Let me try again instead of retry. So you can change all of those labels to suit what it is you're doing. And if you're doing a course such as French, Spanish, a foreign language, you can change it to the language so students can see and practice seeing and hearing. And when you're finished, you click save. Now, all of that which we have just done is simply setting it up in the content bank. So we have set up the content bank, and now we want to put it in the course where the students can see it. We have to ensure that editing is turned on, and we go to the section of the course where we want to put it. So this is level 1, and I already have one set up here, but I'm going to do the one that we just did. I click on add an activity and I click on H5P. I give the name of it. So I'll call it knowledge check level 1. And then I can put a description in. It's not mandatory, but you can put a description in. And this time when you're going to include the image, you wouldn't click down here anymore. We click down here because we were going to set it up. Now we actually click to find it. Under normal circumstances, when you're adding your file, your resource, your image, and so forth, you would go to upload a file. Or for those of us who are more advanced, we would click on recent files. But because we're working with H5P content, the only place we can go is to the content bank. So you click on content bank, and the content bank will show you what you have so far. And here I have my item. So I click on my content bank, and it gives me the name and so forth. And I click select this file. So you notice that it now has your H5P here. If you were uploading a file, the file would be here. If you were uploading an image, the image would be here. And then you can decide on options. If you're going to put in options, you can decide on a grade. Now, I did say that you can lock it into the grade book. So I am going to assign a grade, and the maximum grade that students will get for this will be 10. And I can decide my attempt options. So I'm going to enable attempt tracking. So you will see what that looks like. And the other thing that I can do, I can decide if the grading method is going to be the highest grade, because remember that for my course, this contributes to their engagement task. So do I want them to practice, and they get, each time they practice it, I use the highest grade, or am I going to use an average grade? Am I going to use the first attempt, or am I going to use the last attempt? I'll use the highest grade. It's a low stake activity. And then, do I want the students to be able to review their own attempts? Yes, it's a formative assessment is preparing them for their summative, their big paper coming at the end of the semester. So I will allow them to review. If I didn't want them to allow, I would select they cannot review their own attempts, but I want them to review. And the rest of it is Moodle related, is VLE related that we should have been familiar with. I want this to show on the course. I am not putting any restriction on. I want to do something here for my activity completion, which is turned on. I want the students to I don't want the students to mark this as complete. Some of my students are dishonest and they will mark something as complete when they have not opened it. So I want the activity to be shown as complete. So they have to go in, do it before the system automatically says, okay, it has been done. And I want them to get a grade. It doesn't have to be a passing grade, but I want them to go through to the end where they get a grade. So they only get a grade when they complete it. So when they get a grade, it shows. If I want them to get a passing grade for it to be considered a complete, I would then select that. If they don't get a passing grade, it would not show up on their completion bar. But for me, I'm happy with them just getting a grade. And then I can save and return to course, or I can save and display. I'm going to save and return to course so that you see where it is. So here it is, knowledge check level 1. And I can click on it. It tells me that I won't get any tracking attempts because, well, I am the teacher, so it's not going to do that. But there it is, and I can click on it. Now, I can see this as a teacher, but I can't see tracking attempts or anything. So I'm going to log in as a student. We have students' accounts, and I'll show you what happens. So let me log out as me. And I'm going to log in as one of my test students. Okay, so this is Lisa, and Lisa is doing the course, Game-Based Learning in the Caribbean. And Lisa knows that there is an assessment. And so Lisa goes to level 1. That's the only thing she has access to. And there it is. It tells her that she will receive a grade once she has done it. So I'm going to click on that. And then it tells me that I should begin the knowledge check. And so this is true. Oh, I didn't deselect the check. So she can see that. And let me put another one in. Oh, she gets to do this. My Lisa is bright, okay? And she is not going to check. She's just going to go through. And it's, see, the progression bar is here. So she's on question 3 of 5. She has read. And she has selected. And then, has she selected? Yes. And then she goes to this one. As I said, she's a very astute student, comes early, pays attention. And so she clicks on finish and it gives her her results, 9 out of 9, and she can decide to show the solutions. I am going to log in as another test student who does come to class but does not pay as much attention and may not be as astute. This student is also registered for my course. And so this student is what the student name. Okay, whatever the student name is, one is Lisa, this is Marissa. Yes, so this is Marissa, and Marissa has the same activity. And why am I doing this? I want to show you what the tracking looks like and how you can see what it looks like in the grade book for you as a facilitator. So this is the assessment. And so Marissa is reading through, making sense of what is there. And notice that for this one, the first question is on the drag and drop. What is missing that I did not put? It's simple. It says sample drag and drop. I should have put the instructions here that says drag the boxes to the respective field. So that is an oversight on my part, but it's something that you would have to bear in mind. So she has that. She has that, and then she puts these over here, and then she's the person who's gonna check, right? And then she's gonna do something like this, and check again. Okay, so so she will do something like this. As I said, she doesn't pay much attention. She comes to class, but she tends to get distracted. So she'll keep doing that until she gets it correct, and then she'll move on, and she'll probably get this wrong, wrong, but she remember GBL expression and what it does. And so she'll do her checks, and she'll try, and this is where a hint could be useful, or you could have the solution. So the good thing is that the student can also see what is happening. So when you leave the show solution for formative purposes, the student can see the correct response. Of course, you realize that she can no longer attempt the question. This is true, and this is correct. And there is one more question which she more than likely will get wrong, and she will retry several times until she gets it correct. Okay, so she gets 8 out of 9, and when it shows a solution, because she tried several times, because we had put the retry feature in, it counts it as correct. Now, these are the two students. She will go through and she will see exactly what she has done and how well she has done. All right, and then she can log out. Now, as the teacher, now the reason I can do that is because I actually have student logins. I requested student logins because we deal with faculty development and we don't really have classes like how teachers have classes, so we don't have students. And so in order for us to see what students see when they log in, we requested accounts so that we could log in as students. When you log in as a teacher, we're still at a particular disadvantage because we are seeing it as a student see, but we're still seeing it with teacher lenses. And so in order to see it truly and experience it truly as a student, we requested the student login. In your sessions, you could simply ask one of your students to log in to show you what that would look like. We don't have the benefit of students, so we have student accounts. So I'm going to log out and I'm going to log back in as the facilitator. And I'm going to my course and I'm going to the level. And you notice I haven't turned editing on. I'm not editing anything. I'm just going in to see what was happening. When I click on this, it gives me attempts report. So this wouldn't have been there before because the students had not attempted it. Now, when you go into the activity, it gives you an attempt report, and then it gives you the names of the students. So all these students are fictitious. I am fine with sharing these names. Dominic, we may have to edit it to ensure that Google, the YouTube doesn't flag it. Okay, so we have our students here, and then we have when it was done, the time and the score, and then it tells us how many attempts. Now, if the student had attempted more than once, it would tell us how many attempts, and then when we click on view user attempts, it would give us first attempt, second attempt, that sort of thing. So here it tells us that it gives us analysis, it gives us data. This is one of the things that I love about this version of Moodle, and definitely the H5P integration. So it tells me that Lisa attempted this once and she got full marks. It tells me how long it took her to complete it. So this is something you can also use to flag whether or not students truly understand. If they're in an activity that should take, say, 10-15 minutes and they're in there for an extended period of time, you can flag it. Now, it could be that the student was distracted and was paying attention to something else, or it could be that the student was genuinely stumped. So this is something that you can use to determine whether or not you have a follow-up. And of course, if you look at the report and all the students are spending exceptionally longer periods on a question, it means that this is something that you need to take a closer look at to determine whether or not you reteach the session or you reteach an aspect of it or how you approach it. It tells me that the activity is completed because she did finish it, she gets a grade, and it gives me a report. Now, for the report, this is where you get more details. It tells me that this is a pass, and then it gives me her breakdown. So it tells me what she attempted, and it tells me what the correct response is. It tells me that it was drop and drag. It gives me for each of the students. So you can see right here how well they have done. The Moodle quiz does this too, but it's a little more technical than this. It gives me the information, and then it tells me and gives me her score. And this is for Lisa. After I've looked at Lisa, I can go back to the H5P and I can look at Marissa. Okay, Marissa got 89% and it gives me her reports. It tells me that she took 2 minutes and then it tells me that her outcome was a fail. All right. So even though she got in the long run, based on her number of retries, she got these incorrect, she got that incorrect. So it looks at all of that to determine whether or not you have passed or you have failed. So this is one of the beautiful things that I like about the reports. Because they're very useful when it comes on to giving that kind of information. Now, I did say that it also shows in the gradebook. Let me show you how. So here I am in the course and come on. And so I go to grades and you'll see that it is here in the gradebook. So Lisa's grade is there. And oh, this is for the knowledge check one, level 1. So she got full marks. And Marissa's grade is also there. So you can see that. And of course, if you want to see this as a user report, meaning what exactly the student sees, I can then look at Lisa's report, which will give her that. There are 2 things that she did. So the first one, she got 8.82, and the second one, she got full marks. And I can also look at it to see exactly what Marissa would have seen. And this is what Marissa's own would look like. So it does indeed integrates into the gradebook if you set it up in the gradebook. Any questions? Did I leave anybody behind? Are you still with me? All right. So Simone, I want to show you where if you have already, and not just Simone, for everybody, if you have already created your H5P in Lumi or on the H5P website or somewhere else, you can actually upload that and then make any kind of adjustments that you want. So let me show you how
No,
we do
before
that.
you do that, please.
Yes, go ahead.
The alt text.
Oh, let me log in back as a student. As I said, I don't know if it'll show. I know that it is supposed to show for students who are having issues, but let us see if for my students, so I'm gonna log in as Marissa and let us see what happens. I had forgotten about the alt text. All right, so no, it doesn't show. I suppose because I'm not having internet issues, because something would have come up. So I suppose it's only in the case where the page isn't loading that the text comes up. but the
So
page has
it is a
loaded
situation where
perfectly.
the text pops up on the screen.
It's yes, because the image doesn't load. That is different from a hover text. A
No,
hover
what I
text is,
wanted to know is how it appears.
yes.
For
So
example, if I am visually impaired or hearing impaired or something, like how
right.
would I benefit?
So what would happen is that the image would not load. It would probably just show a blank screen with the text that says a group of it says something like image in square brackets. I'm trying to remember based on what has happened to me before. I think it says it's a blank screen. It has in square brackets image, and then the image says students playing students playing together a board game or something like that. So it describes the image because it cannot show the image to them. And it describes it in text. So they see the text that says image, that this should have been an image, and that it shows a group of 4 persons playing a board game, or depending on the amount of details you put in when you fill in the alternate text information. Does that explain it to you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Great. Simone, you're still with us? I'm going to show you how to do the the transfer. So let us say that you have created something that you want to put in your course. You have already created this H5P using the Lumi tool or whatever tool it is. What you would do, instead of, you go to your content bank as usual, but instead of clicking on add, you would click on upload. It would search for an H5P document to upload. So I am going to do a quick little search. And this time I would go to upload a file because I am going to look for my H5P. And I think I have an H5P in the session that we did yesterday. So let me just go to the image hotspot. Yes, I do. So when I click on that, please note it says that this is an image hotspot.h5p. I create it already. I save it as an H5P. And so I would click on upload this file. And there it is. And I click save changes. When I click Save Changes, it will open it so that I get a chance to make any kind of edits that I want to make. So this was what we were looking at yesterday. This is our image hotspot where the students click on something, they read the text, they see the image, that sort of thing. So we had created this yesterday. I had done a sample. It was saved on my desktop. So I have added it to the content bank by clicking upload. And then, of course, I do the usual thing by going to the area that I want to put it. Let me put it somewhere that is showable. And then I would turn my editing on because I need to do some work. I click on add an activity and resource. I go to my H5P. I name it. I'm just going to call this uploaded H5P just to show you what it looks like. I can put in my description, and then I go the usual thing. I go to find it, and oh, what did I call it? There it is. And then I click select. There it is. And I can decide what I want to do here. If I want to do the usual thing. And then I go to the course where I will see it. There it is. When I click on it, it will tell me this because oh, I selected the wrong one. But this is what was uploaded. And then when I click on it, it shows the different pieces of information that I want my students to see. And that is how you upload it. It's very simple. Once you have already created it, you have to save it as a .h5p file. And then instead of adding, when you go to the content bank, instead of adding, you upload. So when you go to the content bank, instead of adding, you click upload, and you look for it wherever you have stored, and you bring it into the content bank, after which you then do the usual, add it as an activity or a resource and put it in the respective section. Now, when my students come, will it work? Let us find out. So I'm going to log out and I am going to log in as one of my students so that I can see this. So here I am, and here, this is the level 1, and this is what I had uploaded yesterday. And it tells the student, right, so this is what I had uploaded. And so the students see this, so you realize that they can see it if you create it elsewhere and you upload it. And when you click on the respective sections, it open. So for this one, it has text and a video. They would click on the video would play, and they would go through whatever it is that I want them to do. So it does work whether or not you create it in the virtual learning environment, or if you create it external to the virtual learning environment, and then you add it to the system. Okay, so that is how you create it in the VLE. That is how you add it. If you were looking at how to, if you looked at creating it externally and wanted to add that. Any questions? Is this clear? Was this clear to us? Very clear. All right, wonderful. So we're going to wrap up today's session. Today we looked at another tool, another interaction. We call them interaction in the H5P suite. We looked at the question set. And one of the beautiful things about the question set, I want to show you something before I wrap up. Let me just share my screen and share the assessment that I had set up first, which also has the essay. So let me just reshare, because although we were looking at different things, so I'm in student mode, which is good. And this was what I had set up first. So it has the information. This one says start quiz. It has the text. So this was one of the things that I had said that was an oversight when we had set it up. So it says that you should drag each item to the correct column. So this would be there, that would be there, this would be here, this would be here. So I'm doing this as a student. And I'm not, well, I'm going to click on, I'm just gonna click through. So I'm not gonna click check each time. And this is just to remind us of the essay type question that was put in and how it is treated here. Gamification, GBL. And I'm using dots here, so it gives me that progress. So it shows me that I have completed all of these already. I am about to work on this one and I have these two to go. So this is an essay type question, and it says that it's a scenario that you have set. A secondary school teacher in Barbados wants to improve engagement in her history class on the topic of colonialism. She is considering either introducing a role play simulation or adding a badge system to our existing lessons. One is game-based learning, one is gamification. Which approach would you recommend and why? And there are some hints to the student. So you could easily set that up. Ensure that you give your recommendation with clear rationale, reference a learning theory or evidence, and mention some practical constraints. So the students see this before they start typing. And then of course they would type their response here. And then there is something that says check. Okay, now note that when they check here, there is no response to get. They don't get feedback from essay type, it is set up in such a way. But what you can do, let me continue the assessment and show you. This is a drag the word. So they have their clues, and so they, based on what it is, oops, it says that when it changes to a darker blue, and you will have to make sure that your spelling is correct. That's not how darker is spelled. And so when it changes to a darker blue, they can let it go. And so we will let that go in there. Darker blue. And the final question is mark the words. So this is where they look and they click on particular words. And so for this one, a simulation would be an example of game-based learning. I could click on ecosystem. So all the words are basically links. You don't set it up, you simply select the ones that are correct. And so the students would select. Of course, if I check it, it will show me that these two are correct, but this one is not, and it minuses a mark from me. So the student also sees the marking process right here and then. When I click on finish and I click on show solution, I just show you something. So it's, of course, it's going to show me what the responses are. But for the essay, it gives the model answer. So the student can see what a response could look like if they were responding. They should, you know, so if I were to have done this and I didn't say, okay, both approaches have their merits, have their pros and cons, then it is something that I know that for the final assignment, this is something that I could bear in mind. Of course, you may also need to say to the students, do not copy this response and give it to me in the final assignment, because there are some students who do that. It is only meant to show you how you could approach. So you may need to put that kind of details in. I put sample solution, I put model answer, but in bracket, I could put your response may vary. This is not to be, and you put all the things that they're supposed to consider. And then you put your model response. So this is very useful if you give them extended writing activities. You put in a model response, you put in guidelines on how they could approach it, so that when it comes to the final assessment, the big ticket assessment, the major project, they are in a better position to approach the activity. And of course, this is the drag the words, this is the mark the words. And once you have done that, it shows their results 15 out of 17. If I go to the grade book, I could look on the progress tracking. I could see that this was done, how long it took, what the first response was, etc., etc., etc. So I just wanted to share that with you before I wrap up, just to let you know that you can also put in your essay type questions, your extended writing questions that you can use. Now, I have a little more experience than you do, so I may go through it a little easier with a little more suave, but when you start out, you may be a little bit clumsy, you may get several wrong. Don't stop. Just think about planning first. Think about the course, think about the topic, think about the learning objectives, your learning outcomes. What should the students be able to do when they're finished with this particular activity? If you're looking at different quiz types that you're going to put in, think about how does this quiz type help the students to reach the objective or the outcome that the course or the topic carries. And ask yourself also, how does this particular quiz set that I'm setting up help the student to master or to manipulate or to ace the final assessment or the final assessments, the other assessments that are coming? If there is no alignment there, don't set it up. It makes no use. It will be counterproductive for you and also the students. But as we have also said in the past, and we continue to say, this is a tool. It is just another tool that you can use. We expect you to use it judiciously. Ask yourself, will this help to enhance, to advance the session? If the answer is no, don't include it. Will this help the students to engage more with the content? If the answer is no, don't do it. Will the students get feedback that will help them to do better on the summative assessment that is coming up? If the answer is no, don't do this. If you can answer yes, then please go ahead and set up your activity. When you set it up, remember the feedback aspect. It's something that we lament. I myself have been very guilty of not giving that kind of feedback. So we have to do better as facilitators. We have to guide the students on getting the information, yes. And when they display, when they demonstrate what they know, we need to guide them. We need to praise them when they have done something wrong, right? And tell them why. When they have done something that just misses the mark, we tell them why as well. So we give them that kind of feedback. And if we need to let them know that in order to advance their knowledge, improve, get better, this is where you go. We need to put that into our feedback. So it's just another tool that you'll have to decide whether or not it is useful for the topic, the learning outcome, the nature of your class and your course. The other thing that you need to do is start small. So you realize that the question set has 8 different question types. You don't have to start with all 8. God forbid. Start with 2. Start with 2 and start it with one of your classes. And then as you get more comfortable as your students, because you'll be getting feedback from your students, ask them, document what works, document what needs improvement, and keep using it if this is something that works. But start small and work your way up. People who know me know that I've always been saying that it was ambition that killed Caesar. So start with 2, start with what you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable with 1, that is fine. But if it's 1, it's not really a set. Okay, so you could start with 2 and then build it to 3 and so forth. Start with text only, and when you feel more comfortable, you can add your images, and then you can add your audio, you can add your video. Please remember that you have the Notebook LM, which if you share different resources, it can create an infographic for you, which you may want to use. It can create a video that you may want to use in the assessment. It can create an audio if you want to use in the assessment. So make use of the AI, use it as a tool that can help you and your students. And we have recordings on the Notebook LM that we are more than happy to share the YouTube channel with you. So that's 2. Note what you do. You may get a research paper out of this, how your students reacted, and if it's possible, explain to them. Today I'm going to be trying a new tool. It's to help you to master the skills that we have been learning, to expand and to show me how much you're learning. And it also is to help you. So talk to your students, be open with your students, get feedback from your students, and enjoy the process. If you're into engaging your students, you have to also take some pleasure out of it. So enjoy the process, celebrate the small wins. When your students say something about it, you do your little victory dance, enjoy the process. But don't forget the learning at the center of all of this. One of my mantra is that we are operating in a period of relearning. I tend to make reference to Toffler's mantra statement that the illiterate of the 21st century are not those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And so we're in this dispensation of relearning. Some of the things that we have learned before, we have to now shift them aside to make room for other things that we're learning that we, and so we are in that period where we have learned, we need to unlearn so that we can relearn how to engage with our students, how to make our learning more impactful, how to transform this kind of learning experience with our students. I do believe that I have talked quite a bit. I am all talked out. And so I'm going to open the floor at this moment, just in case we have any last minute comments or questions, anything that maybe I haven't touched on, but you have met when you were exploring that you want to ask, to share, to clarify, to query.
Could you please say where on campus CETL is?
Where the CETL is located?
On campus, yes.
All right, so technically speaking, we're located in two places. I'm on one side of the campus and the office itself is on another side. So if you are coming to the office, so you'll find our supervisor, Dr. Chisholm, and our admin support staff by the interfaculty lecture theater. You know where that is?
No, but I'll
You know
find
where
it.
Juicy is?
Yes.
Right, so it's right across from Juicy. So if you're standing in Juicy doorway and you look straight across, you're looking at the interfaculty lecture theater. And if you
Oh,
go
I know,
upstairs,
yes.
yes, that is where the CETL office is. So that is where Dr. Chisholm and Mr. Williams, Miss Owens are located. If you want to see me, if you want me to sit down with you regarding anything that you're putting together with the students, any tool like that, I am located in the deputy principal's office. So that is by the assembly hall, second floor.
Thank you.
So we're separated for now until we get a central space for everybody to be.
Thank you.
All right. So to wrap this up, I want to thank you, Dominic and I, on behalf of CETL. Thank you so much for coming. I know that it gets harder and harder, and so we'll need to have a discussion about how we can still engage you. We know that the interest is there based on the registration, but we also know that the attendance has been declining over the years, and we have been hearing why. So we'll have an in-house discussion about how we can still engage you if you're unable to attend our sessions. So that is one thing. Two, we always have an evaluation form. So even though the group was small today, we still want to hear from you. We want to know how you felt about the session, if this is something useful, if this is something you can use with your students. We try to ensure that what we do, it's something that you can use next week, the week after. So we want to find out how this is going for you. And we also want to know if there's anything that you want us to do. We're doing a suite on H5P because of the requests that came in. Clearly, there was a need there. So we ask you to do that. Three, we will be sharing the recording with our registrants as soon as it is available. We will be sharing it via, well, we'll put it on our YouTube channel and we'll share the link with you. We'll also direct you to the other videos which we have posted on our YouTube channel that you can explore. And if you send us an email, I thought I said earlier that we would send you. Thank you so much. I'll read it in just a few. I said that we would send you the notes, but if you have already received it, you probably don't want it in your box again. So what we want to do is ask that we're gonna ask you please to indicate if you haven't received the notes as yet and the handouts that we have shared in previous sessions, please indicate and then we will send those to you. That could work, right, Dominic?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And finally, we want to hear from you. So if this is something that you have tested, we want to find out how your students responded, whether or not it's something you'll continue using. We want to know how it's going with you. And please, we have to do something that we call an impact study to get an idea of the impacts, the influence that our sessions are having beyond the evaluations. And so look out for an email asking you please to, contribute to the sessions, to the survey, to the questions that we may have, so that we can know how better to serve you. That is it from us for today. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Mr. Williams. As usual, you have been very gracious. And we look forward to hearing from you, and hopefully you will join us for our other sessions. We are having 2 sessions next week. One that is really something that you can't miss. We called it PowerPoint's cooler cousin. It is still H5P and all the wonderful things that it can do. So we have that webinar. It's not a workshop. We have that webinar next week, Wednesday, March 4, 5?
Yeah,
4. March 4. And then on March 5, we're looking at how you can develop your e-portfolio to showcase who you are, to move for promotion, for awards, that sort of thing. So we have 2 more next Wednesday and Thursday that we hope you register for and attend. So that is it from us. I saw 2 comments. That was excellent. Michelle, sharing the links to the recording session would be useful. I would definitely appreciate this. We are happy. We hope that we continue to serve you well, and we are happy when you come and we get this kind of feedback. I'd love to get the previous H5P sessions and handouts. No problem. We will share those with you. Please make a note of that, Mr. Williams, so that we can share accordingly. Thank you, colleagues. Enjoy the rest of the day, and homecoming, apparently. Enjoy that if that is something that you tend to participate in or look on to.